Hello and welcome to the first edition of the Newcastle Greats podcast, a podcast dedicated to the history and the kings of the Newcastle graffiti scene, hosted by myself, TUF. Today's guest is a writer that's done it all, started off in the late 90s and he's still one of the most recognisable tags in Newcastle today. He's a man with many stories to tell after living a life that would make for a great best-selling book. He's the people's choice, and he's the writer you all wanted to hear first. So today, everybody, we welcome the legendary TUF. So TUF, nice to have you. How are you doing?
Great.
Living the dream.
Happy to be here.
Happy to
summer.
be here.
We're meant to do this on Boxing Day, weren't we?
Well, we did. We
came all the way here for now.
So just for everyone that doesn't know, this is the third time me and TUF are recording this because due to technical difficulties, it didn't work.
Slight technical hitch.
So we're going to try it again, right? So I'll crack on. So can you remember how or why you got into graffiti? Like how old were you?
Well, I can all my life I can remember seeing it, but sort of writing my name. I used to just do my initials places when I was like 9, 10, 11 with people I used to go to school with. It wasn't until I got to like the age of 15, 16 I actually made a tag up, you know, and then that's when I'd really started getting into the graffiti. But for about 5 years or so before that, that's when I was taking notice of it and looking at it around the metro system and places.
So what was your first like proper memory of like good graph? Like who can you remember seeing who was about back then?
I can remember seeing loads of old school graph places, like that Value Deck shop in Wall's End. I remember that being done twice.
Was it more? It was a few others, was it?
I'm not sure, you know. I've got no idea.
Because it was done a couple of times, wasn't it? A few times.
And where Moore's mum, rest in peace, and she used to live. I can remember there was at the bottom of Ord Avenue in Howden. There was like they must have got permission off the council, and just for some reason, I think it was the TTK crew. They had done like the end house on a row of terraced houses. I remember seeing that, but it had been like tagged off loads of little kids and dogged out and stuff. And the Hall of Fame that gets called Z's Tunnels up by the Silver Link. I remember going through there and seeing graph. There was even, I remember seeing stuff by Psycho, MBS there. So that's how long ago. All the way back to then, mate.
So obviously when you were a kid, like when you were first getting into graffiti, shall we say like all the Newcastle kings were in their prime, so the likes of like Dism, Keza, Inch, Royal, Rape, all of them. Do you remember like, was Newcastle hammered back then? Like what was the scene like?
You seeing them names, them are literally the only names who I can remember were getting up. This is, I'd say, 95, 96. Maybe apart from them, I'd say Cyber, Gams and Chatto over on the South Shields sort of line. But there wasn't. Now I'd say there's more people with more tags about, but it gets buffed a lot more now. But say if them 5 people back then, Dism and Rape everywhere, they were a proper tag team. They had they sort of had, everywhere I used to travel, they had blasted with paint, like.
Because back then, like they were like they were the main people doing it, weren't they? Like there was because obviously Chavez didn't come into it until the 2000s.
No, there was no like toys or anything practicing. Like I remember actually 2 people, Cypher and Row 1, and actually Sizzle and Rune. Them they weren't toy standard, but they weren't as good as the Kings. They were sort of in the middle. They were just starting to get into it then as well. But what you were saying there, you're right.
So what was the first crew you were in?
It was a crew with a kid who I used to knock around with from where I'm from, who used to write Demo, and we made a crew called CV, Chrome Vandals.
I remember that.
It was just a rip-off of, I think we had spray can art and Subway art, the books.
Was
the Chrome Angels, and we were just, for some reason, just CV, Chrome Vandals.
Did Cossa and Rads put that up as well? I'm sure there was I seen like Cossa CV tags, yeah, or would that have been after?
Cossa?
Remember Cossa? Cossa
I can't
and
remember
Rads?
anyone writing that up.
Do you not? It was COHSA.
No.
You don't remember that?
It just died on its arse, that crew. Like, we got nicked, and he wanted to keep out of trouble where I didn't, and I ended up getting in the TSK crew, and he just sort of drifted out of Graph, so it just fucking died on its arse.
So it's probably fair to say that TSK was probably one of the was probably the first main respectable crew you were in, sort of thing, would you say? And yous were all
definitely.
Yous were all from totally different areas, and it was just a case of a load of school kids coming together and doing graffiti. How did yous all meet each other? How did TSK come about?
Well, what it was, the main Hall of Fame. This is the very beginning in 1999. The main Hall of Fame was the docks down in North Shields, and me and Demo used to go every Saturday. He had a camera. Remember, this is before internet and everything. This was when when you had to take your film to the chemists.
The click.
We used to take it to the chemists in Howden, and we used to go with his camera. Like, I found that Hall of Fame by going on the ferry to South Shields with my little brother and sister and my auntie one day, and this is when, can you remember when there was a dolphin hanging around in the Tyne called Freddy the Dolphin?
Flipper? No, not.
Oh well, it was at that time there was Freddy the Dolphin. I don't know where he got that name from. Like, and my little brother, you know when you go to the cheap toy shops and you used to get them army things where you got like a machine gun and a pair of binoculars and a grenade and all that.
I still get them now.
Aye. My little brother, I still get them foam aeroplanes. My little brother brought these little kids' binoculars to go looking for the dolphin on the ferry, and I've seen Graph in the background, so I was just like, give us a shot of them, bro. Got them, looked, and there was a rape piece. And I was bugging out. I just couldn't wait to come back from South Shields, and my family, Dave got on the bus and went home. I've went into the docks and seen it, and there was just loads of banging pieces by Keza and all them. Like, anyone who's seen all the Dism Rape Keza pieces from down the docks with characters and everything back in the day, you know what I mean? Mash pieces and that rune stuff.
I think the docks will go down as probably the Northeast's finest ever Hall of Fame, wouldn't it?
Yeah, actually I've never really thought about it, but so me and Demo, because I just stopped going to school when I was 15, but he was still going, so every Saturday it was like a bit of a ritual. We'd go down to the docks, and we went this Saturday, and as we've got off the bus and walked in, we've seen a lad and a lass doing graffiti, and we're like, who the fuck are these? So we've walked over at them. It was only Finer and his bird at the time, Moser. Yeah, and then he was like, he was like grinning. He was like, "You're buzzing if you have come down here to watch some good graph get done." And we're like, "Why?" And he went, "Wait till you get round the corner." We went round the corner. Keza, Dism, Rape. I think this was when.
Did any of them have hair back then?
I'm trying to think. No, actually, they were shaving it off back then. It was like this. I'm sure this is when Dre was over from Holland. It might have been the piece when him and Sizzle done like a sort of production thing with characters and all that. They were all painting. Then at the side of them, there was a group of younger kids the same age as me and Demo. And then at the other side of them, there was some older people just stood there. And so me and Demo have walked over. And the young'uns our age ended up being the TSK crew. Like Cash was there. Scar One. I'm trying to think of their tags back then, because people have changed tags, haven't they? Shy.
Sake was he there?
I don't think Sake and Epic were there. Or Sail. But all the rest of them were there. and we were talking to them, and we're both sides of us couldn't believe that the other ones were young'uns, and they're like, aye. But then the other people at the side watching, which was pretty random, was Cyber and Gams. They'd came over and they were watching them do pieces.
Never really seen them right round this end. They're more like south.
They weren't painting.
South side, weren't they?
Just for some reason they came over, and everyone, were down there all day that day, proper. And that's when me and Cash, because we both, actually me and him sort of half recognised each other, and it was off going to a rave the Judgment Day, and he used to play football with Demo again. He'd played against Demo for some fucking league what they were in together, and they recognised each other, and me and Cash recognised each other, and we could only put it down to being at the Judgment Day, you know, because that's where him and Demo would recognise each other, and that's where I'd been with. I don't know if I'd been with Demo or if I'd been with me other mates. I can't remember, but me and Cash we've swapped landline numbers and give each other like our first names.
Fucking hell, remember landlines?
That's what it was, mate, back then.
Ringing each. Is such and such there?
Aye.
I'll knock
that
on you.
ended up being the downfall of the TSK crew. Like, if you fast forwards a few months, one of us we're all on the Metro, we'd been smashing it. We're doing dubs pretty much every day and stuff, and this was on a Sunday afternoon when the Metros are dead. Someone's decided he wanted to scratch a window, started scratching a window. Two fucking undercover pigs have just stood up and went, right, come here, swarmed all together. When we've been nicked, because before, like me at this time, I'd already been into pinching cars and stuff with my friends off my estate, and like I was known as a joyrider and a car thief and stuff. So criminal damage to me was a step backwards down the criminal ladder. So I wasn't taking it serious at all. Didn't get a solicitor out. I think the only person who got a solicitor was Scar One, and the rest of us just didn't realise how serious it was. And with all being so young, like I'd only been arrested 2 or 3 times before this. I don't think any of the other ones had. And basically the Busy's sly cunts let we talk ourselves into a conspiracy to commit criminal damage case. They were like, right, you're from Walker, you're from Howden, you're from Killingworth, you're from Heaton. How do you, like, why is all doing graffiti together? And we're like, we'll just ring each other up and go out and paint and stuff. Just instead of just no commenting it.
My solicitor advised me to say no comment.
I know that now.
So then, obviously TSK, like, you all met each other. That was your first proper crew you were in. Like, for me, and you might not agree, for me, the crew that you were most known for would be CBS.
Do you reckon?
Aye, for me personally.
From you, aye.
So like
from your era.
Aye, like that was for me. Like seeing obviously being from Walker, CBS was. I remember being like a school kid and it was just bashed all over.
Yeah.
But obviously, like as it went on, like writers like Kez and that were putting it up as well. Drop.
Mm-hmm.
Who else? There was loads of the big names putting it up at one point, wasn't there?
It was just like a helping hand sort of thing. I think it was because none of us were good enough to be in their crews, so they just were putting it up. You know what I mean?
I'm sure Kez has put CBS up on his like
I've
some of his trains in trains in Europe,
well,
he
was
and that.
Taking he took errors and he might have took.
Shout out errors, oi.
He might up there in fucking Bonnie, Scotland. He might have took Ush, I can't remember. He took a couple of the Sneak took him painting Royal Mails. You know, when the big yard was a freight yard. I remember he put CBS up then. So
with you still being at school, like during those times and stuff, and like obviously TSK and stuff like that, like how did you used to do your spots? Like, did you have to like? Because obviously you were still a kid, some of the spots that you'd done were like risky spots and stuff where if you were grown up you can go through the middle of the night. How did you get about? Did you have to sneak out? Did you have to lie to your like what was the crack?
I was alright, mate, because like trouble I'd been in before and that it had been quite serious stuff I'd been nicked for, and I think this is when I was living with my auntie and uncle, because I'd been in foster care and I was going to end up getting put in a secure unit, and they were just like, that's jail for kids. Yeah, he's 14, took us out of foster care, and they took us in. And they'd had 5 kids who'd all grown up and moved out. And they were just happy that I wasn't like pinching cars and stuff anymore, or fighting and that, like Scott and Marv, who I used to knock around with, rest in peace Marv. Like stuff they were doing was more serious than the criminal damage. And I'd been going to raves as well, all nighters at the After Dark too in South Shields. So my auntie knew that there was nights that like Friday night, I'd go out at like 10, 11 at night, and I wouldn't be back till 6 or 7 the next morning. So I used to just lie to her and say I was going to the After Dark. So that was me, alright, but the rest of the lads would have to do stuff like at Shy's, would have a sleepover, and we have to wait for his mum to go to sleep, proper tiptoe, out of his house, because he lived at this time he lived in Heaton, pretty close to a yard and pretty close to some fucking decent spots on the metro. So his mum had let like 5 of us sleep over, and we'd all sneak out of his.
It's mad how
gaff.
you used to get away with stuff like that when you're younger, wasn't it? Like they were fucking sussed. Can you remember what was the first like illegal dub or like piece that you did, like on the tracks or wherever? Like, do you remember what it was? The
first track sides I done was with demo, and they were just brush ups with a roller. Like, now I know people use emulsion for their fill-ins all the time, but like, this wasn't ahead of its game. We didn't even have any decent paint to outline it with. We just sort of done brush ups, no 3D, and just outlined with proper shitty AutoChem black paint, because this was before we found AV tailors. So we were getting paint from car shops, what was just or it might have been car plan black, in the yellow tin.
Mm-hmm.
Shit paint. But this was honest, man. Once I got into TSK,
was car plan, was that colour service?
Yeah, car plan colour service.
Horrible.
From Wallsend High Street. Meeting the TSK crew, this is when I sort of got a little bit of inside information about Stone Guard and Chrome.
The legend that is Stone Guard.
From AV Tailors. And like Cash, he used to ring up and book tins, so because people like
because you turn up with, because I remember once I seen Inch in there, and he was coming out with about 3 carrier bags worth of fucking Stone Guard black.
That's what I was just going to say. They'd go in and buy a crate of like 12 tins at a time and that. So Cash used to ring up and say, will you, like, it's bloody blah, will you put it to one side for us? The blokes used to love all us, so spending our money in there. They were like,
the amount of times they used to say, your bike must be getting thick now. You're spraying your bike that much, it must be thick as fuck.
There was the old one with grey hair, looked like Elvis. Remember him? He was alright. And then there was
you know what kind of version of Elvis he looked like?
What?
His Father Ted, where they do the Elvis episode,
yeah,
where Jack's dressed up as Elvis. That's what he looked like.
He did look like Father Ted, actually, but without the Elvis thing. He looked like Father Ted, just with like a bit longer hair. But then there was a younger guy with glasses. I remember him saying to us once, when I was your age, I used to piss it up the wall instead of spraying it on the wall.
What, when he was 15? Who do you think he was?
And he was like, you're coming in here and spending a tenner every day, like your family must be loaded. But really, it was money off doing, because we weren't racking paint. I didn't start off racking paint like I do now, you know what I mean? Because I don't look like a little kid no more, so I go in and wipe places out. But doing the ID parades, because they were like a 2-minute walk from AV Tailors. This is when you could buy a Chrome for £2 and a Stone Guard for £2. You know what I mean? So for a tenner, we used to go and get 2 Chrome, 2 black, and what were them little tins? Halts.
The high coats.
High coats. And a high coat for the either 170 or 130.
Signal red, broom yellow.
Stuff like that.
Signal green.
Daytona yellow. Signal green. So we'd go and buy I would spend a tenner on little tins to do pieces, like small pieces in them, or we'd go and buy 2 Chrome, 2 black, and a colour to do 2 borders around them.
Do you reckon they still do the ID? And I honestly don't know. Do they still do the ID? They wouldn't do. Oh, not because the ID parades. They don't do them anymore. Because at the end they started taking your photos, didn't they?
You got to pay a one-off tenner.
You got a one-off.
Called the Viper
for your last one.
Because something we were all like in about 2003. I can't go into a very deep, but blah, something's happened. Someone's got stabbed up the arse in a rain killer. Someone got away and them got nicked, and they had to do them ID parades like for real. You know what I mean? And all of us had done them where you got paid a tenner for them to. You picked something off the rack, the clothes, and put it on, and then they filmed you for like 10 seconds. My two mates had to go and do one for real.
Them ID parades, obviously, for anyone that doesn't know, all the old schoolers will. Like, you used to go to Clifford Street Police Station, and there used to be like a back entrance, like a little hut, wasn't there?
Yeah.
And there used to be like a little reception waiting room, and there used to be.
You used to get let into that, like, sort of. It's like, you know what it always used to remind me of, you know, the cover for that film, that The Usual Suspects.
Aye,
the lineup. It was literally
a
two-way mirror, and you go and stand with all these height things behind you, like 5'6", 5'7", 5'8", and there'd be 10 years. I don't know how many. How many people used to line up?
So basically, what it was, if someone had committed a crime, the police would want people in to do the lineup.
People who looked similar to the guys who'd
so you used to
allegedly done the offence.
So you and all your mates would go, and they'd pick you if you're suited, and you'd get a tenner if you got to do it. But sometimes, like, you used to get wind of what they were looking for. Oh, so they're looking for.
Or someone wouldn't turn up.
So you'd fly there straight away, get your tenner.
Yeah, I'm not a makeup artist. Did you ever get the moustache or anything drawn on you?
No.
We done it one day, and me and Sake kept them on, you know, for a frisk, and went bombing on camera, you know, with these fucking daft moustaches on, and we had hats as well, and they were black beanie hats, but there was like a big carrier bag full of them, so we kept ours. We both put the hat down with thingies, and both went bombing. You know, when you used to walk in the Biker metro station, how there was it was with still windows at this point, you know, straight in front of you. And tagged them all with them daft hats on with the moustaches. Drew on with.
Going back to the ID parades, I remember, and I've said this to you before, where I went and done it, and I was like, fucking belter, tenner, I'm gonna get some paint. And then there was about
me. There was a lot of money back then.
Where got you fucking 2 chrome. I used
to get a £5 pocket money.
It got you like 2 chromes of black and a high coat for your band. But I walked out.
We used to go and get a Happy Meal with the other £2, you know, 2 chrome, 2 black, and a Happy Meal from McDonald's.
But I walked out though, and fucking me and about 10 kids, 10 in my pocket, buzzing. There was only a baghead from Wales End. I'll tell you who it is. You know who it is.
Everyone knows who it is, don't they?
5 year older than me, and I was only about 13. He must have been about 18, 19.
Built like a bloke and all for an 18-year-old, wasn't
and he was just waiting outside the police station.
I've seen him take phones and everything off people, man.
Gives you tenors new, and I remember thinking, fuck me, how much balls has this bloke got to tax what outside of a police station? I just give him it, didn't even think twice.
Not realising
but then
crippling heroin addiction was what it was, not balls.
But then I was thinking, yeah, I'm gonna have to fucking whack Yem. Foreman. So my next question was, like, what kind of paint were you, like, using when you were first starting out? Like, do you remember how much it was for a chrome and black and stuff? But we've just kind of touched on that, didn't we? Really, AV Taylor's was fucking it was pennies compared to, like,
B&Q. I used to raise a little bit of paint, but B&Q, we used to go in, and there was these tiny little they were smaller than high coats. They were called odds and ends. They were alright on a brushed up wall, but there just wasn't enough in each can, so you needed, like, in a piece, you had to get like 2 or 3 cans of every colour. The same, 2 or 3 cans of the same of every colour. Do you know what I mean? To instead of just being able to have like 1 tin of blue loop now, you'd have to have like 3 tins of the same. These colours were only like, there wasn't much in them. It was just trial and error, which kinds of paints and that, what you could pinch from there were good and which were bad.
So I think, like, it's safe to say now that the majority of writers, apart from probably a few like yourself, like Grew, Grimm, probably a couple of others as well. But most writers these days, they normally buy their paint online.
Yeah.
Obviously, when yous were young, yous were in school, apart from the ID parades, like
It hadn't even been invented, man. Montana had
Yeah.
like something like a selection of 25 colours that had just, they were in Graphitism magazine. Like, there was nowhere to get them from. Like, you got them from the Graphitism shop in London, but up here there was no one. Like, a couple of people eventually started selling it from the houses, but like proper paint for graffiti, it wasn't invented.
So
we were just at the back end of the days when, like, luckily you could get. Could you get pink high coat? I don't think you could you?
No, I can't remember.
You could get
like,
a purple because it was called Rainbow Blue.
Aye.
But we were still at the arse end of the days when you used to have to mix a tin of white with a tin of red, put one in the freezer, warm one up, 2 WD-40 caps, half a tin of each, turn one upside down, have one the other way, with the tube with a WD-40 cap on each one.
The science behind it,
The pressure, like
the science. So
that always, saying that though, what that always reminds me of. For some reason, that kid who used to write Pimp cooked a tin of fucking blue Montana up in his kitchen. In the pictures, I ended up on Rickster, the sort of all the Newcastle graffiti thingy, and there was a picture of like, for some reason he'd had the paint in a pan on his in his kitchen because he lived in like a big posh house.
And
Northumberland Parkway.
No, it wasn't, man. He lived in Whitley Bay.
Did he?
Aye.
Well, it was a big posh house anyway, and there was like picture number 1 was a pan with just water, and picture number 2 was where there was just like blue splattered across a white ceiling, and then picture number 3 was like a tin where this tin had shot out the pan, hit the ceiling, turned left and shot along the root of the ceiling and then embedded itself in the wall, and there was loads of paint dribbling down the wall, and he'd been trying to cook it up for some reason. Like, I think he'd been out in it froze, so he was trying to get the pressure back in it.
I remember Pimp. He was looking back now, he was such a kind of like well educated. He was never going to go down the same paths I was. And I remember when I did an underground spot with him, and it was like 3 a.m. and we were waiting for the cleaners.
Manners? I've heard you've done Manners.
No, it wasn't Manners.
No?
Nah.
But you have done Manners.
Oh, probably.
Have
but
you?
I don't know.
A couple of times?
Probably
maybe?
I think I.
I don't know.
But
people know.
We done this spot. It was me, Pimp, and he was the guy that was writing the Arc at the time.
Yeah.
And we were waiting in the tunnel, waiting for the cleaners to go off the platform. And Pimp had brought a packed lunch. And I've since heard that he said this didn't happen, but it fucking did. But him not being like me, he had some what were they called? Milky Stars, remember them?
Milky Way, Magic Stars.
Magic Stars.
Magic Stars, aye,
and
aye.
He had a big share bag of them, right? And I says, waiting in the tunnel, I was starving. I says, get some of them. And he went, oh, okay. And he gave us one. He gave us one. And I says, you fucking tight cunt.
No wonder his family had money then.
He was probably a Tory. He's probably a Tory. So obviously, time goes on. TSK's passed CBS. At this point, obviously, you're well established in the Northeast graffiti scene, even though you're still quite young. You first met like the likes of Keza and Rape and all them down the docks when you were quite young. But as time went on, did you get to know them better? Did you spend much time with all the Newcastle Kings, and did you paint with any of them? Any stories?
Well, sort of. A little sort of side branch of all them was people. It was like Seb's, Drop, Fine, and Honours, Doob, and
they were like the next in line, weren't they?
So they were all TNS, but they were like younger, sort of thing. We all went painting with them a bit. Keza sort of reached out to her. He took he let Sneak live at his, not when Sneak had, like, when he's been taking the piss and he's mad, hide him out for a couple of days to try and teach him a lesson and stuff. Or like if we'd seen them out on a night time and would bumped into them somewhere when one would have a pen or something, like we'd all bomb together and stuff, and they all used to encourage were sort of in their own ways, but Keza, like him, like letting all go to his for his notorious barbecues and stuff, things like that. Like he done the most for it, I would say, even though he was like the king of Newcastle at that time. And he had been before. He was always encouraging, you know. He was always had something good to say. Or he'd always do a favour or whatever.
Did you ever like paint much with Kez or?
I'm trying to think. I remember. I think he took me to do. Went to do metros a couple of times with him in his car when he had a. He had a. What kind was it, man? It wasn't an Impreza, but it was a decent Subaru car that he had at the time. I remember going in. No, it wasn't. It was a Mitsubishi, a Mitsi, something, but it wasn't the Evo. He had a decent car. Went to go and try a couple of places for metros, but it just wasn't happening. I think that's one of the only times I went out to actually paint with him, apart from bombing. But like Eras and Sneak. I think they went and done pieces with him a few times.
You mentioned like he's Kez has like notorious parties and stuff, and like I popped in once. I was only there for about 20 minutes, and I seen you there covered in pen.
Yeah.
And you know, I like there was loads of writers there who I remember, like Fine Ass, Sebs, like Inch. Now the one person after all these years I've never met though. I didn't even know what he looks like or anything really. Dism, never met him. I think
he's a quiet
he
guy.
must like
like
kept under the radar, like compared to the rest of them, sort of thing. Like,
I think so. I think it was just because he sort of, at the time that we got to know him, he stopped getting up as much, because really. He'd always had quality pieces around the Watergate area and that, like between there and the town. But if you think about it, when we started getting into graph, he stopped getting up as much. He'd still do Halls of Fame, but he was starting to slow right down. Like, I don't know if that was stuff in his own personal life. He was a good BMXer as well, though. So I think.
Oh, I never knew he was a BMXer.
He was into that. So I think his attention might have drifted over to that. Like, I think you know what it's like.
You hear
everybody,
stories, don't you? Like, I mean, I could be wrong, but
peaks
like
and troughs with graph, like
families
people,
and stuff
yeah.
like that, careers and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, moving on. It's obviously it's no secret that you've done endless amount of time in years in jail. And
makes us feel like a big man.
Solid, solid.
I wish.
But obviously, the first time you went to jail, it was for graffiti. Obviously, you were still quite young, and I think at the time, we're talking UK, there was only about 3 or 4 people in the UK, 5 people went to jail before you, and they were massive writers, weren't they? So it was kind of sort of unknown back then, wasn't it, for someone to go to jail?
I think there'd been a few people from London definitely like getting stretches and that, but like it wasn't. Like I remember when Fista got that 5-year. It was in 1996, proper piss take, giving someone 5 year for graph. But like I think, well, I hadn't heard of many people getting it. Like 3 people from up here got 12 months each. You know, 2 of them were co-accused with each other. One of them was by himself. That was for doing whole cars and stuff, you know. So
I'm sure that was after you went to jail, though, wasn't it?
No, they went again because I was writing to them at the same time. When he went again, him who were on about, like obviously no one wants to say, but who it is, but he was. I was already banged up. I got locked up in the December, and then it was in like the February. Them with a couple of people from down the road got banged up again. They still ended up getting less than me. Their second time in jail for graph. I was doing 12 months for fucking scratching windows, basically.
So, basically, you've never been to jail before, even though you've lived a criminal lifestyle, right? You're in the dock. What has your solicitor said to you to expect jail? Like how you feeling, what you feeling?
It ended up at Crown Court, and they'd put it into free 3 different charges of criminal
When
damage.
was this, about 2001-ish?
The end of 2001, the day after my 19th birthday. It's went to Crown, so it's been serious. First time up at Crown Court for anything. I was this was when tag wasn't really a thing either. Like I think you could get it from the grown from like blokes prison to finish off the end of your sentence, but that was the only thing you didn't get put on it as bail, you didn't get it as a punishment. As balls and that weren't even out. So I can just remember.
Hell, do they still even do as balls now?
I thought you were going to say if it was
they
a while
were
ago
massive as
before.
balls back in the day, weren't they?
Aye, I never got one, me. I don't know what. I don't know.
Antisocial behavioural order.
Aye. So I can remember my barrister saying, watch out, because the judge is a bit of an arsehole, and they've painted a pretty dim picture of you. The other times when you've been up here.
There's no worse when you get a shit judge, is there?
And he might give you a month or two over the Christmas to give you time to sit and reflect on what you've done. So watch what you do. So be prepared. And I was like, I no bother. So sat there, and then they've shouted us in. And I even says the lass I was going out with at the time, Vicky, I've says to her, she stood up with us to come into the court, and I went, no, chill, 2 minutes. Went in the court and went in the dock, and then
never seen her again.
Well, the judge just started waffling on, so I was just thinking in my head, God, fucking get it over with. I can just remember him saying, the time has now come for you to be sentenced to custody for your actions. So I can just remember thinking in me head, for fucking great, you've lost out on Christmas. That's the thing in me head. And he went 12 months, and I thought, you fucking dickhead. Like, I knew I would only do half of it, but like, it snapped me back when he gave us it, man. I felt like taking my shoe off, and winging it down off his fucking head. And like, then the next thing, the Group 4 blokes grabbed a hold of us and started putting handcuffs, like the handcuffers behind, to him, I mean, not behind me back, to him. And he was like, come on, we're going downstairs. And like, it still hadn't, sunk in. I was just in shock. Got downstairs, got put behind a plastic screen, and the barrister come in and went, well, he went, you got the short straw there, didn't you? And I was like, fucking hell, man, you're me barrister, man. Fucking, like, you could have fucking spoke up a bit more about this and said, I was trying to sort my life out or whatever, and he just sort of shrugged at us and went, just don't take no shit in there, man, your time will fly.
Just crack on, man.
Just jogged us on.
19 years old, first time in jail. You must have been, were you bricking it?
I was not terrified, but I was worried. Of course I was. Like, nothing can prepare you for. Like, I'd been in the sweat boxes before, like times when I'd been out and been nicked and kept in for court, like you have as well, obviously.
God, nightmare.
Aye.
Can I just tell you a story about my worst time that happened to me, right?
Go on.
So I was at the Townmoor or something on a Friday.
Was not the time when me and Sneak were in the busy station with you?
No, that was. Oh, but that was a time, but that was just a one nighter.
Aye.
But there was one time where I was at the Townmoor. Who was I with? I can't remember who I was with. It might have been Robbie Kingswell.
Aye.
Right. We're at the Townmoor, and a police seen us, and I had a warrant out for me arrest, and he recognised us, and so he got us and he nicked us. So obviously Friday night there's no court on a Saturday or Sunday. So I got
not back then there wasn't.
So
it's Saturday court now,
is
right?
it?
Yeah.
So Pilgrim Street Police Station over the weekend, obviously it gets filled with drunks.
Yeah.
So I remember having a cell to myself all the Friday night. Saturday night comes, right? We're overpacked. We're gonna have to like put more people into your cell. So I got a chava from fucking Baker, proper shit talker, and I got a fucking alcoholic, and he was an old man. And,
what was he called? Errors.
Do you know what it is? I used to see him all the time knocking around town and that, right? And I haven't seen him for years. He's probably dead now, but I remember him fucking coming in, starting mortal drunk.
Yeah.
Puking all over the cell, right?
Whoa.
So that they came in and they cleaned
Sometimes
the cell.
they used to take you up to Eatle Lane, on the weekend to clear the sort of city centre pads out. They used to come and get you at like 9 o'clock at night and shift you up to there. Did that ever happen to you? No.
No.
It happened to me like a couple of times.
This bloke puked all over the cell. So anyway, I spent the full of Sunday in this cell. And even though they cleaned it, it was just fucking
I would have just been
stinking.
glad of the company in the busy station. Like, it's a killer. I hate it. I'd rather do a week in prison than like 24 hours in the...
What's the meals? It's the all day breakfast. It was sliced potato.
No, sausage
and
with
beans.
green bits in and then covered in beans.
That was it. I think that was the only meal I ever had.
Proper rubber sausages, but you hide them off the wall and they just keep bouncing. They hit like 3 walls in the pad. Now on the go round. There was lasagna, curry.
Oh, I had lasagna once.
Curry was a good one because you used to get a tray of rice and a tray of curry. So it was like double compared to the
double
other
whammy.
things. Aye.
The little cups of water used to be fucking
fish and chips,
warm as toast.
I think I've been through the full menu in there. Like,
now what I used to do, I'm not even gonna say it. It's rotten. I'm not even gonna say it. It doesn't matter. I'll move on. So
wank
anyway,
in the cups. Wank in the cups.
No, I used to. It's rotten. You know how obviously they used to put the blue mats on top of like the seating area. Do you know what I mean? The blue mats on the. I used to piss under the mat and hide the piss so that when the next person come in, he would sit on the mat and it would splash. It would splash.
I didn't think that was coming there.
Oh hey, I'm not even going to edit that bit out, me. So obviously, you're in jail, right? And you're in jail, and do you think? Because I've spoken to a few people that have been to jail, yourself as well. But a few people have said that, like, when they've been, like, doing graffiti, like, kind of, like, benefited them in a way, because, like, they did people outlines and stuff like that, and it got in people's good books of sorts. Like, did you find that or not? Or
well, when I got moved down to Dearbolt, it did. Like, when I went to Cassington, I was alright, because with his sort of being a criminal before I done graph, I knew people from other areas who got into trouble and stuff. So there was like a couple of them were on the wing with us. People who had been because I used to go to this thing when I stopped going to school, I had to do something with me time, so I used to go to this training centre and do a bit of joinery, and used to get like 30 quid a week. There was kids from there who were in prison, and kids who I knew from going to the After Dark all night rave.
Like Bernardo's or Nacro or something.
The QV, it was called, the Queen Victoria Training Centre. But it's a similar setup, exactly the same as what you're on about there with Nacro and that. They knew us for doing graph, but they weren't really interested in it. Like, I ended up getting 10 extra days. Arguing with someone at the window about whose crime was the stupidest, and because he was in for burgling a takeaway and taking the till money from a kebab shop.
Wasn't Ray, was it? Oh no, that was a bar. so he can go to the monkey.
He didn't break into it. He just got pissed off and took the thingies, didn't he?
He went the monkey.
And he lost another job because of that, didn't it? They googled him when googling people first come out. He lost.
I
lost his job. Unlucky Ray, mate.
Shout out Ray Scotland.
So like the people who I knew that I'd done graph anyway, so it wasn't really like a novelty to them. But that kid, I got arguing at the windows, and he had a bit of a softly spoken voice, so I thought like, oh, he's a muppet.
So carry on your story in a second, right? But can I just say, imagine getting into that kind of an argument in jail.
Well, there was no tellies back then.
Who's in for the most stupidest thing?
Well, there was nothing else to do. If you think like loads of 18 to 21 year olds, and there's fucking 30 people on each side of a wing. You're locked in a pad on your own. You don't have a pad, mate. You don't have a TV or nothing. If you've been there a while, you could buy a little radio. So everyone was at the windows, constantly chatting away and all that, and there was nothing else to do apart from take the piss out of each other. So, that kid, and I ended up, I'm alright with him now, Dean. I get on with him, but he, basically what it was back then, like, I'm not big on nothing now, but I was a lot smaller than I am now. I was short and scrawny, and he sounded like that at the window. So we had this argument and he went, listen, I'll knock you out. I was like, well, get it fucking done then, wait till the doors get open. And then everyone was like, there's going to be a fight, you know, buzzing to see a fight. And so we came out for tea and he was like a fucking rugby player, you know, a little stocky thing with no neck. And he'd been in a few months, and also he'd been pumping iron at the gym. I'd never been to a gym once in my life. And I thought, oh shit, like you've got yourself in deeper than you can swim here, bruv. So I tried to start on him out in the open, and he was just like hissing underneath his breath, because you had to walk all in one direction down to the servery, get your meal, then back up the stairs and back along to our cells in the other direction with screws stood every so far apart. And I was saying, come on, then we'll get it on now. And he was saying, no, tonight on association. So went back behind the doors. Straight away, everyone's been at the window going, Dean, you shit yourself. It's just made him more angry. Like, he was only 2 doors away from us. I could hear him fucking shadow boxing, you know, and and all that leading up to after tea till association. And then one of the kids was a cleaner on the wing, and he's come to me door and he was like, listen, like, TUF, he'd do you in a fight, him, you know, but I don't like him. Go and have a fight with him, and when he starts to get the better of you, I'll jump in, because I want to knock him out anyway. He's just a bully. He's been bullying people fucking the full time he's been in. And I went, like, me trying to show that I could stand up for myself. I went, no, listen, I'll just do it myself. I'm not bothered if I get chinned. At least people know I'll stand up for myself. And he said, put that little like, it was the end of a brush. He went, put the end of that scrubbing brush in a fucking, because the socks what the jail gave were like big long fucking rugby player socks, you know, like what you fold over, but just one colour, these big grey horrible woolly things. He says, put that in your pair of socks, tie a knot in it, and just fucking wrap it round his head. And he started laughing. I went, aye, I will. And he went, I bet you don't. So I went, listen, I'll tell you his name, Quinny from the West End, Mickey Quinn, he's good stuff. He went, I went, Quinny, you can smack me in the face, fucking, if I don't do it. And he went, no, I'm not going to do that. He went, it's up to you. Anyway, the kid's been stood in the showers with his top off, jumping round, waiting for us to come in. I've had it wrapped up in a towel as if I had me shower stuff and all that in, like, a new socks and boxers and me shower gel and deodorant and that. I've just dropped it, ran in, hit him over the head with it, but it's happened that quick. And with it being next to Christmas, there was a Christmas tree right next to the shower door for some reason. With the socks being old and raggedy, the bit of wood, once it hit his head and flew backwards over my shoulder, split the socks open. The dry scrubbers flew out, hit the Christmas tree, and all the baubles have fell off and hit the floor.
How the fuck is your memory that good? You're telling it like
because it's happened. Because I'm just telling you.
20 years ago, and it looks like you were there yesterday.
Aye, because it's pissed us off. Because I got 10 extra days for doing it. The screws have ran past me and pinned him to the wall by his neck, and they were like, Dean, it's always fucking you. And the screw just went to me, Harry Potter, you. Get yourself to your door now. Get banged up. And as I was going, everyone was like winking at us and putting their thumbs up and stuff. And then,
listen, be honest. Did you feel fucking solid?
No, because I thought he's going to fucking murder us this time when he gets a hold of us after this. Because he didn't get to hit us back. You know what I mean? He swung a couple of punches, but blood was coming down into his eyes, so he couldn't see what he was doing. So I've just managed to dodge them as the screws have ran past me. And I was on a nicking the next day, and this was when governors could give you extra days. I'd only been in 3 days, and I got 10 extra days, so it was just like starting my sentence again with another week on top.
So did you used to like do sketches?
But that's what we're getting to. Once I got moved down to Dearbold, down in Barnard Castle, and there was a kid who was out about a week after I landed on there. He was from the Meadowell. He was called Dean Hamilton. He died in a motorbike crash. Hammer, but he had a lot of respect on the wing. He was a hard cunt. When I've landed on the wing, he was like, listen, this is me pal, I'm leaving him fucking stuff out my cell now because he's from my ends. Like, he'd promised bits and bobs to people, but he'd said, listen, it's got to go to one of me boys over yous, and he left us like a load of pens and stuff. I started doing people like outlines for packets of noodles and stamps and that, and like writing a girlfriend's name and stuff. Mm-hmm. So yeah, like one of my mates got nicked in New York painting the subway over there, and he got padded up in the county jail. It took him 3 weeks to get sent back to Britain. Like a few years later, In him, it was the same. Once they knew he was in for graft, he was doing them for packets of ramen noodles for kids in the Bloods gang. Like, I tell you who it is. Like, once his interview's done, you can ask him yourself.
I know
It's,
who it was.
aye, well, it's so it does. Once people are intrigued by it, who don't do it, and like you can draw something that in your head isn't that good, but they think it's amazing because they've never done it before.
I think like graffiti, like it was a thing where like it brought a lot of like different kinds of people together. Do you know what I mean? Whereas like you didn't have to do it to appreciate it. Like I always say, fucking like in the 90s and that it was more of a hip hop fucking kind of thing with like.
Well, it was one of the four corners to start with, but then up here it was like to do graffiti. It sort of went hand in hand with like BMXing or rollerblading or skateboarding or hip hop or breakdancing. But like my generation, like the TSK kids and that, we were the.
So you were the first.
We were like the first ones who weren't into none of that. We were into like rave and German trance and stuff, and wearing like Berghouses and Rockports had just come into fashion, and you know what I mean, tracksuit pants and fucking granda caps and shirts and that. Like we were seen dressed like that doing it, and I think that encouraged more people like us to give it a whirl and that. Like all of your mates, who you used to knock around at Hadrian Road Metro with.
Aye.
Like all of them, I don't think if they hadn't seen us dressed the way we were and listening to music we were and doing the stuff we were, that they wouldn't have bothered trying.
I always say fucking like rave and Makina, not rave and Makina, rave and graffiti go like hand in hand. Do you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of people in both scenes that appreciate both of them. Do you know what I mean? Obviously you touched on like you used to go at the After Dark and that as well. You used to go at the Monkey and that as well, didn't you? And like 0102 and that now.
Aye, well, right until it shut. I got locked up. I got a big sentence. January 2006. It got raided in March 2006 and shut down. So,
what's your favourite ever set?
What, from the Monkey?
Monkey, After Dark. What's your favourite go to?
Probably the DJ Inferno one from November '99. Just everything, because I was more into like the German tunes than the Spanish. And he played a proper, listening to it back now, there's loads of stuff wrong with the set, but back then him with Jets MCing over it was just a banging tape. It just came out of nowhere. Like the tapes the week before and the week after are pretty shit, and this tape just came out of nowhere with him on. Plus I was there, you know what I mean? Fucking that, that's one I'd say. I think it's the 7th of November 99.
So just touching on like when you got out of jail for the first time, I think when you got out of jail, I think that was pretty much the first time where like I started like met you properly and stuff like that.
Well, you'd put Free TUF up, well, Free me nickname, hadn't you, on and done what you'd done in the time that I was in, because like everyone was putting it up, weren't they? Because it was like a big sort of thing at the time, wasn't it? Like one of the boys getting jail for graft.
I remember like Inch putting it up on Monument platform.
Aye.
Like free, yeah, it wasn't your tag, it was your name, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Like, people were putting it up all hour. So then obviously you got out of jail, was it about the summer, springtime-ish 2002? Something like that?
June, 17th of June.
So it was around about that time where like I started to get to know you properly, and I think we had just started like RFH. RFH had just been introduced to RSP, and it was like two crews like knocking around with each other sort of thing, and everyone was putting up each crew. Obviously you were in RFH as well with like myself, Joe, Keta, and then you obviously had the original RSP, which was, I think it was just Rise and Rasp at the start, wasn't it?
Yeah. There was them two who were just putting it up, and they were getting up on the top line, just them two by themselves, just doing dubs, little dubs with a signal green border around them, around every dub. And me and Sneak just sort of reached out to them on the Rickstar Bullet and saying like, oh, I just want to link up and stuff. And for whatever reason, I can't remember. Sneak, I think he just stayed in his and played on his decks that night. Well, I meant to go and meet them one night, and I've ended up it was when I lived where I used to have a flat up High Farm. I've just walked up. I didn't live far from Rise. Went up and met him, and then.
Were you the first one to meet him? Were you? I can't remember.
Yeah, and then I'm trying to think how I met the rest of them. People like Vairu and stuff. I used to go to school with Vairu's big brother. I must have just seen him out somewhere, and I think that's how he like introduced himself. You know, who his big brother was, who used to go to school with me. So that's how I've started talking to him.
Is that how Vairu got on the scene because of that? I can't remember how everyone met each other. Me.
A lot of it was through 400 mil, like him being from where he lived over on the south side, started talking to people on there from over our ends, and then he's linked up and stuff like that. Like Shady, we got to know him. Like we knew him anyway before he'd even done graph. And then he started painting a lot of.
So if thinking back, like RFH, RSP, RFH was more about kind of like damage, street bombing, town, being fucking choras. RSP was more kind of like well thought out, calculated trains. Like
using the internet to link people from different cities up and down the country as well. Like why had people going to London 2004?
I remember when was it Mew they played it with Mew? I'm sure.
I know they met Element.
So would you? It's safe to say that obviously you had spent the majority of your graffiti career just doing streets, tracks, damage, all that kind of stuff. But then do you think when you started putting up RSP, meeting that kind of caliber of people, you started doing like more trains and stuff like that?
Aye, definitely. This is when being a system boy sort of germinated with people, and that went hand in hand with the internet and using Photolog was the big thing at the time, and it was when we started noticing that Newcastle had an underground system. There's only like 3 in England or Britain, whichever one includes Scotland, because there's like Glasgow, Newcastle, UK. London. I don't know if people really class Merseyrail, but people wanted to start to come to Newcastle to paint the metro system on the side of the trains, and they were talking to people in the RSP crew, and because of that, we got put on to people, you know, in like Spain, over Barcelona and Madrid. We had people go out painting over there. I went up to Glasgow with met the AR boys. Like that's how I like always got respect for them. Like Acme and Grin, they're 2 of the first people who I ever met from outside of Newcastle who done graph. We went up and done their system with them. Them came down and done ours with us, and that's when there was a sort of shift from just doing streets and tracksides to actually painting on the side of metros. Like metros have been getting done in Newcastle since fucking the graph started, you know. But it died out a bit with the TSK and the CBS sort of eras. It was more about streets and stuff. Like even like Dism's done some of the best metros ever done. Even like he wasn't bothered about doing them, and like Keza and Rape were only hitting the odd one. It's not like now, you know, where people are trying to like pretty much fucking something gets done at least once a week, doesn't it, now around here?
I remember the first whole cause, unless I'm wrong, didn't get done until 2003 by Avec, Amor and Deeks.
Omar.
Back then that was like, fuck me, someone's done a whole car. But how many whole cars have been done now since then? Do you know what I mean? It's been tons being done.
Over 100, I'd say.
Loads.
People keep them under wraps. They keep everything to themselves now, like, and it's so easy to do now compared to like dubs. You know what I mean? Compared to back then.
But you know what it is, though? I think it was always easy, just people didn't think it was. Do you know what I mean? Like, I remember...
But now, like, what I'm saying is, like, using ultra-wides to fill in with Chrome, you can run and fill a metro in less than 2 minutes, you know, just let it dry for another minute and then come with your outline and stuff. But, like, back then, all you had was, like, tins of Montana and fat caps, and like they were a luxury then. Like now, people don't like the speed that you can bang them out now. You know, at certain places round the system, or even in the sheds.
It's mad because I remember Rape saying to me years ago, if he knew when he told us, if he knew then if he knew now what he knew then, he would have like probably smashed it a lot more. Because if you think, like, the cameras didn't even come onto the metro system until about 2003. So before then, there wasn't even any cameras anywhere. You could have done what you wanted. There was no fence up at Heaton Yard or anything like that. I think people just didn't think like it was possible as much as what it probably would have been.
Or the way that I've always looked at things that I've missed out on doing is that I think things are just going to stay the same forever, so I don't bother doing them.
Aye.
And then things change.
So just going back to like the old days of like RFH and RSP, I think it deserves a mention that we'll mention something that happened back in the day that was near and dear to mine and your hearts, was obviously the sad passing of Gary Henders.
Yeah.
Obviously, he was one of our friends that had a big passion for the graffiti scene as well as the rave scene. In 2003, unfortunately, he died after going to the New Monkey. But since then, obviously, his name's not been forgotten in terms of, like, many people really, but in terms of the graffiti scene, people still go out and do walls in his name to remember him by. And I know people comment on Instagram and stuff, and they still say like it's fantastic that like you're living his memory on and stuff like that. Henders was obviously from the West End. I'm from Wagga. You're from Howden area. Like, do you remember when you first met Henders? Like, how did that come about?
Through the kid who at the time was writing Arson. Henders went to school with him, and he'd painted with him a couple of times. And but Arson was into BMXing. He was sort of into punk music and like heavy metal and stuff like that. And Henders was more into the rave side of things. So he sort of drifted off from knocking around with him and his mates, because they were all in like a BMX sort of gang, sort of knocked around together. And that Henders wasn't into none of that. He was into like wearing fucking stripy jumpers and Henry Lloyd coats and Granda caps and stuff. So he started coming with us, and we used to have that little part like on a fucking. There was a part like every Friday. We used to have a party in this kid's house, Barry's. We used to call it the techno trip, with like decks and a fucking mixer and all that. You know, like, well, I think you came to one or two.
Yeah.
We used to have the decks on the fucking one of them pool tables what you get for Christmas. Like, we used to have the decks on there, and we used to have fucking Ali Woo's video camera, the techno cam, fucking and stuff like that. And he used to come over and DJ there with all of us and get on the mic and get full of cheap cider and that, and just have a laugh with all. It was good. I was with him as well the weekend that he died. Like, a few of us went down to London in 2003 for the Urban Games, and he came down. And we was with Phil. My last memory is from getting off the train at Central Station, and he said to us, "Are you coming to the Monkey tonight, the New Monkey Rave Club?" And I went, "Nah, I'm fucked." Like, was shattered, you know, after 2 nights with no sleep and all that and all the travelling. And I was like, I'm gonna go and chill and watch, because I brought a graph video back from London, a Spanish one called War Spirit. I wanted to watch it. And I was like, I'm staying in and watching this, me. And he was like, all right, then no bother, I'll give you a bell, give you a buzz tomorrow on your phone. And he never got round to it.
I don't know if I ever told you this, but I don't think I've really told many people, and here I am fucking about to tell it on a podcast. But one of my biggest regrets in life was, I don't know if you remember, but I was supposed to go on that trip because it was through the boob, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And it was on the day when I was due
Through
to
that
get...
youth club I used to go to.
It was on the morning when I was due to be picked up. I couldn't be arsed, and I just pied it.
I didn't know that. I didn't know you were meant to come.
I was meant to come, and on the morning I just pied it. And one of my biggest regrets in life is that I missed these last couple of days just because I couldn't be arsed.
Aye.
But fucking hell, we were kids. But
well, it's the same with me. Like, I wish I could have went to the monkey with him. Like, maybe I could have helped him. You know what I mean? I wouldn't have. Like, the way that he died, just getting left wrecked on the seats and people pouring water on him. You know, when he was saying I'm too hot and stuff, and just, like that's, like, your regrets not being there these last couple of days. Mine's not going to the monkey with him when he died. You know.
But it's class that obviously people still do walls in his name and stuff like that, and me and you especially we put him up next to our work and stuff like that. So
I couldn't do the wall last year, could I? Like, I fucked my foot.
What did you do again? You fucking
kicked someone. Had a fighting with people and ended up kicking someone, and I broke my foot.
Fucking
I swelled up so I couldn't even walk on it.
Anyway, rest in peace, Henders. R.I.P.
Yeah.
Kid. So again, like everyone that knows you knows that you've done obviously many years in jail. But what people might not know, or they might know, is that most of that time was due to crime not related to graffiti.
Yeah, aye.
And I think like one of the biggest, I know where you went. I think it was 2000 in. So you had done something. We're not going to say what it was, but you were obviously on the.
It's fucking done.
Well, if you want to say it,
stabbed somebody, got a big sentence for it.
Stabbed someone, got a big sentence for it. I wasn't even going to mention this, but do you remember when you were on the run for that 2 weeks?
I was staying at yours.
You stayed at mine. We spent 2 weeks. We made loads of garlic butter. I remember that. We watched Quiz Mania.
Aye.
With what was he called? The
Greggles.
Greggles. 3 o'clock in the morning watching fucking Quiz Mania, and we used to go to fucking Safeway in Benton and pinch all the magazines and papers at like 4 in the morning.
Teleguides and stuff, just stupidness.
And then how you got nicked was I was involved in a road accident where I was in hospital for days, wasn't I? And then the police came to my door looking for me. What, you had left the window open because you had the flu, hadn't you?
I wasn't well.
You had
just stuck his fucking head through the window.
Looking for me, and fucking hell, he got the golden egg. He got you.
Aha!
I was looking for
like,
this person.
He didn't say me tag name, but you know,
Yeah.
me thingy. He was like me proper name. He was like Tough, and I was like, I'm not tough. And he was like, yeah, you are. And I was like, no, I'm not. And he went, let us in, and I went, all right. And then he was looking for you, and I was saying he's not here, and I ended up giving Ali Wu's name and details, and he was saying it's not you. I know you. And I was like, I don't know what you're on about, mate. And he's come in and fucking he said, right, we're sending someone here in a traffic car, you know, with a fingerprint thing with a computer. So it's going to come back anyway, so you might as well admit it. Or you're going to get done with obstructing a fucking police officer again. Because he was one of the ones, I don't know how, but he'd moved from the British Transport Police, you know, over to the normal police.
It was like Collier and Harvey and that, like, it was
Lily and Collier, but he wasn't one of them. This one was when, can you remember when me and Cho had done pieces at Manners, and then this was on a Friday night?
The top and bottom ones.
What?
They were top
on the box, because obviously I was older and taller than him, so I went above him on this box, and done them on the Friday night, went back for daylight on the Saturday, and there was loads of were there, and BTP have pulled up, and fucking me, Henders, who've just been on about, who died, and my old lass Vicky, we hadn't actually done a thing wrong. We'd went onto the train station, took pictures of the graffiti, and that was it. And the BTP have come and said, we've been told that people have been jumping down on the tracks, and they've been doing this graffiti. Sorry, I was coughed. But Cho and all them had scattered. They dipped off. So, and they were like, were like, we haven't been on the tracks, and he went, right, well, we're just going to ask the witness if you have or haven't. So we thought we hadn't done no wrong. He went, all three of you sit in the back of this, the car what they had at the time was a Volvo T5. He went, come and sit in the back of this whip. So three of them
Remember
went
them
and sat,
T5s? Fucking hell.
well, we went and sat in the back of that, and he didn't even have a witness ready. He just went, right, you're all arrested for fucking suspicion of criminal damage. You know, well, you sneaky fucking bastards. And they've drove around from Old Manners train station, you know, to the big roundabout at Manners where you walk over the motorway and the thing. And as we've pulled up to it, Cho and Lee Stevens and Glenn, who used to write Grimm before the Grimm now, who they were all on the bridge. They've seen the pigs and they're shouting, fuck off, you fucking bastards, you fucking cunts. And everyone in the cars looked left, but as we're pulling up to this roundabout, I've said to the busy, I'm hot, can I wind the window down a little bit? And he went, I will. So it was electric, you know, so from the front to the back of the car, he's put the window down, but they hadn't handcuffed none of us. And I was at the side there, and everyone in the cars looked left at the walkway where fucking Cho and Lee and them were hanging over, sticking their fingers up, screaming at the pigs. And I've just put me hand out the window, you know, the little gap, stood up and opened the door and just took off, done one, and I got away. But
yeah, I don't think I knew about that.
I got away, got nicked the next morning because he knew, you know what I mean? He knew who we were. And this ended up, this was the same fucking busy who's ended up coming and nicking us at yours, and that's when we're having an argument about who I was.
And he knew.
He knew he wasn't stupid. He was just smiling, saying, I know who you are, I'm not stupid.
He came for me, but he was fucking buzzing he got you.
Aye.
So obviously, you had a couple of weeks on the run, and then
disappeared for 7 years.
Disappeared. So you got the police got you, and you done your longer stretch, like 7 year off the trot.
I was inside for that.
So what was that like? Obviously, you'd done like a few months here and there for graphing and other things. Like, do you think jail changed you in that time, or do you think jail's ever changed you? Or
to tell you the truth, I think it's changed us from the first time. You know, in the young offenders, it's just full of bullies, and it's dog eat dog. You either stick up for yourself, or everyone's gonna have a shot at you. And like, I went to prison for graffiti. Not really a violent person. Like, some of my mates off the estate had battered people, stabbed people, and all that fucking. But I hadn't. Like, I had my fair share of fights with people and stuff, but nothing serious. But then the prison, you have to go from sort of 0 to 100 straight away, and like, someone's going to put it on you at some point. So yeah, you just have to sort of get used to it, to violence happening at the drop of a hat, basically. But aye.
So obviously, like, when you went away at that time, was it like 2005 or something like that?
The
like,
beginning of 2006.
I think, like, obviously when you went away during that time, there was a lot of changes in the graffiti scene. So like, obviously, massive changes to me. So obviously, like, the proper kings kind of thing, like Kez and like a few others, like Finer, Drop and Sebs, they had all kind of like died out. But I think during like the period when you went away was probably one of the biggest shifts like the Newcastle graph scene's probably ever had. I would say, in terms of like style changes and like what when you came out, what do you think was like the biggest like changes you've seen? Like, was it
fucking
because obviously I kind of like I grew with it. Do you know what I mean? So for me, it was kind of like I adapted to it.
Well, I used to get when people used to send us like photos and that in of what was going on, outlines, or they'd come on visits and tell us about stuff. But hipster graph started and anti-style, and I couldn't get my head round it because like I had mates who had banging styles, what I used to love and I used to buzz off, and like they used to say that they were influenced by me at the beginning, but then they started doing their own thing, and then they were doing this, like, to me, weird Euro stuff without 3D and that, and I was like, why are you doing this? And they were like, cause it's fun, you know, like I'm sick of going into a yard where you've only got like 10 minutes and trying to do the most precise thing with like the candy cane 3D and clouds and fades and all that, and like we're taking it back to how it was, and like what pals from up and down the country who they were tight with, they started doing stuff like that, and then friends who they were in crews with abroad done that sort of graph naturally, and I just honestly couldn't get my head round it. Just I was thinking like, why would you want to do this? But like now the way that I look at it is like I've got mates who are anti-stylers, but they go places like, you know, mad places like fucking Zurich and fucking Norway and places like that. Like, yeah, they'll go away to shoplift and that at the same time, but they'll be painting these styles where some of the ways that they've got to get into yards and all that, you know what I mean? Like you see some of their missions popping up on the odd graph vids or on Instagram and that, and like
you've got to respect.
Got
how
no
well
but respect for them choosing going and doing that, but then they're going and doing all that, and they have been doing it for like 10 years easily now. But now there's other people in Newcastle who started with strictly anti-style, and I know and they know that they're shit at graph. They can't do any other styles, so they're just saying my shit graph is anti-style, or they'll say I'm all about the mission, me mate. I'm not bothered about the graph. When really there should be some quality to it. Like at least the people who are doing anti-style, who I'm tight with, like have proved that they've been able to do stuff, and that like these are like the wannabe system boys. You know, they've had their hands held every first time they've went to go and do a different country. They'll not just go somewhere on the drop of a hat, like where people who I know will. These will only go and do stuff that will, like, yeah, there were fresh missions 10 years ago. Now that you're doing tourist spots and that, you know.
I think it's changed a lot. Like, for me, it was a lot about like trying to be good, like trying to get what I did on the wall to look wicked, even though I'm not saying I was wicked, but that was my aim, to try and improve every time I painted.
Yeah.
I think now, and people might disagree, I think there's a lot of people coming through that don't really think that way. It is just about the mission, and it is about the friends they're with, which is fair enough. If that's what they want to do, that's what they want to do. But I think the style and the effort has took a massive hit because of that.
Or like you get the people like it's not a bad thing, but well actually
No,
like there's people, what I'm gonna say now, like they're like the people who done graph years ago a little bit, and then they've had responsibilities like kids and that, and now they're in their 30s with like 15-year-old fucking kids, so they've got their weekends and that to themselves, and then they'll come out and just paint halls of fame on a Saturday, you know, just for the
like me.
Aye, for like the fun of it and stuff, and like, yeah, crack on, it's good. Like, it's as long as they're not fucking ramming their opinions down your throat about stuff when they don't even know what they're going on about. Or another sort of subsect of people that I've noticed are the people start graph, realise that they're pretty shit at it. They can only do a couple of outlines and they get frustrated and they try and take it out on people, and they must think in their head, like, if I can't be the best at it, I want to be the bad boy graph. Like, I want to be the most fucking notorious and this and that. Or I'll try and link up with people who are like bad boys from different crews around the country, and like they put on this proper fake show that they're someone they're not. Like, or they'll tell people blatant absolute lies, like that they're the king of fucking. Like someone from Newcastle the other day was just telling someone from London that he's the king of the Glasgow fucking tubes, when I don't even think he's done one. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of the most sought after tubes you can do, and he's got the fucking nerve to say to someone that he's the king of it, when people who know him are like, I can't even remember him doing it once. He doesn't even know the fucking perimeter, how to get in or anything. It's just mad. Like, they just, I don't know why they cling on to graph. It's like, there's people who dip their toe into different things, like fucking being a football hooligan or being a traveller and that, and then or being an MC, and then they'll dip their toe into doing graph for a bit, and then instead of trying to improve and improvise and getting the best they can or asking for help or whatever, they'll just do shitty whack graph and try and have a name for themselves rather than fucking letting the graph do the talking. And the thing, people are thick and you can't see through it, man. It's mental. Like, gives Newcastle a bit of a bad name, I'd say. Like, considering some of the fucking people who, you know, in Britain that we've had from Newcastle who do graph. Have you seen the quality of it compared to other places? Like,
unbelievable.
The people who I
would say 1998, Dism and Sia up there with the best, like, chrome dubs.
Aye. What about Orbis's pieces?
Best in the UK. Up
His
there
stuff,
with the best in the UK.
What I like Mash.
Mash, unbelievable.
Chatto for neatness, you know what I'm saying?
Unbelievable.
Aye.
You look at
his stuff with brush up. Amazing, symmetrical, mad stuff with characters.
You look at like different, like you can
compared to other cities. Like, I think Brum. I like the graph from Birmingham. At the minute now, you know, people like Flash, Plague, Tempo, Noises. I'm proper liking their stuff. But and then you get the old school London style that I like. But then you get other cities where the graph's not really that good, and we've been spoilt up here with the quality of graph that we've had to grow up with and look at. Like, honest man, being so lucky.
So obviously now we're a little bit older. I think it's fair to say, at least for me anyway, we can't be running around the tracks anymore, or not as much as we used to when we were teenagers.
Who can't?
What does the future hold for TUF in the next 5 or 10 years? Where do you see yourself?
I'm calming down a bit, you know. Like, that's part of the reason why. Like, I know you said loads of people asked for us to do this podcast, but I might have still knocked them back. Like, obviously everyone, fucking my voice is distinctive as fuck. Fucking everyone pretty much knows what I look like. Fucking, it's common knowledge, me tagging that. Even the busies, you know, I've got like 18 criminal damage charges. I'm just slowing down with things. I think I'm going to end up just either turning into one of them people who just does Halls of Fame on a Saturday now and again, or just like, I'm not one of these people who's only got graph in my life, you know, to fall back on. Like, I'm obviously, like, you know me, like, I still like to go in session with people and like DJ at the houses and that, or I like going to raves or fucking partying and travelling around to see people and that, you know. I think just the way that other people grew out of doing graph and getting sick of it years ago, it's getting a bit to that point with me now. Like,
I've always said to you though, like, you're at the point now where I think, whoa, who's that?
We're gonna have to. I've just sorry, I've knocked them off. Carry on.
Let's keep rolling.
Yes, keep rolling.
But I've always said though that fucking, you're at the age now, like, when we were younger, you were always, like, well known for not just graffiti, but being decent on the decks and that as well, do you know what I mean? Like, I think it would be good if you could branch out in that area, like...
well, there's been, like, music, the whole music scene's changed, you know, like, back when I was DJing and collecting records, you could pay, like, £100 for a wicked record that not many people had, or an unknown, where the proper labels had been scratched off it and everything. Now it's all MP3s and that, and like, I could go to one of my mates, go to Butch, and say, copy us all your MP3s, and I'd have like 4,000 MP3s for now, you know. It's like,
I went to Butcher's a couple of weeks ago with a USB stick,
yep,
and he transferred his loads of tunes for now.
Well, it's like, you've got, I think, to stand out from the rest now, you've got to be doing something different, like, or producing your own tunes that no one else has got.
I was speaking to DJ Ollie B about this the other day. Mm-hmm. Like the fucking the increase in like
producers.
Just like the
homemade producers.
Just like the how good they are now compared to what they were like 10 years ago in the Northeast.
Oh, like the Monta ones.
Aye, like because I think when Monta first came out, it was all kind of like
it was all the samey, wasn't it? It was like the same couple of synths.
It all sounded the same.
Robotic-y, echoey. Like me and Jordan W. warned about it. Like, yeah, back then, just tunes like El Diablo and stuff like that. They just, yeah, you're right. They were just all made on the same Simpson. They all sounded too similar. Like,
but the producers they've massively upped the game, like, haven't they?
Oh,
like,
the Monta ones.
The tunes are fantastic.
Like,
I used to hate listening to the modern
like
stuff.
Glitchy and J-Lee, they're wicked. Everything they've made, Triple XL, everything he's put his hand to's been wicked.
Right then, we'll finish on a few off the bounds questions. Who was your biggest influence, would you say, in terms of writer growing up or now?
Influence.
Yeah.
You want to know who was a big influence on me? Bitch. In the way that me letters on that it was all right for your letters not to be in proportion, and to draw mad stuff without it making sense, or to do mental fill-ins and for them to still be all right. Like, as long as you've wanted it to come out that way. Do you know what I'm trying to get at?
Yeah.
It's a shame he died so young, you know, just proper him and Piz together. They were quality, but not from the northeast. From the northeast, I'd say not as an influence, but someone whose stuff I've always loved. Before he started painting, like, he sort of dropped off painting a bit. Orbis. His Orbis stuff was class, and then he dropped off a bit, and then he came back as Otic, and then into his Geist stuff. I've always loved his stuff, but the Orbis stuff, how he made it look evil, I really like that.
What do you prefer doing most? Bombing, trains, or pieces?
I'd say trains.
Trains?
Because it's always with people who it's with people who, the ones that I've been doing lately we've been with people who haven't been from Newcastle, and they've been kept under wraps, and nobody's even seen them on you that we've went to do them, and like we've had a couple of mad chases or whatever, and it's just been good fun. Like, bombing is just part of who I am. Like I don't go out to bomb like I used to, but I've always got pens or paint or whatever on. It's like I've got a couple of pens now, you know. But trains at the minute, but it'll good easy change.
In your opinion, who do you reckon is the best overall writer Newcastle's ever produced? Overall,
More, because he was so ahead of his time. Like, if you look at some of his stuff now, like, I think it was more, you know what, like the Nab and the band stuff is similar to fucking funk, the stuff what funk does now, or Sia, it was similar to Sia's stuff, like, and he was pulling stuff like that off in fucking 92 and 93. I'm not just saying it because he died young or whatever, just everyone will agree, but second from him, Inch, the fact that he was pulling out full colour pieces and doing just little, like, conscientious decisions where people would use remember the Satan Finers, what him and Fine done?
Yeah.
Fine used black stone
Chili
guard.
Road.
What?
A
Chili Road on the pink brush up.
Aye.
Like, Finer used black stone guard to outline his, and Sia chose to use a proper black paint, and after a couple of months, Finer's had went dead dull, but Sia's had stayed nice and shiny, the outline. Like, little things like that. He'll take a colour and he'll only do a couple of dots in that colour on his piece of dub or whatever he's doing. So, yeah.
Who do you think is up there with being your favourite Newcastle writer at the moment?
That's a good one, that. Between two people, I'd say, but Nibsy and Chef. I'm liking both of them. Both got their own style. Both doing full colour pieces. Both don't rely on other people to do anything for them. You know what I mean?
I've spent some time with Chef, and you know what he sounds like? us when we were kids. Now,
Yeah.
the hunger, when he talks about it, and the passion, when I was walking along some fucking street with him a few months ago down Sunderland,
Yeah.
and he was now eyeing up the potential rooftops,
Yeah.
and he was now had that kind of frame of mind, and
Aye.
it was kind of like refreshing to see, and I'd almost forgotten that that's what it used to be like. where
Aye,
he's-
like
he's
your
got
first time round, it's always good. Like,
a, he's got a proper drive for it.
aye, he's been there a couple of times with the trains, and he's had the same attitude then.
It's a good shout, that eye. It's a good shout. Newcastle's best ever bomber, excluding yourself, because I'd put you up there myself. But who do you think?
There's big gaps in my fucking sort of writing career, though. I'd say, you know, like, I know, like, when I've been locked up, when I get out.
Well, I'll fill in the gaps for you. When you were locked up, there wasn't probably a lot of bombing being done.
I'd say fucking Meds at the minute. Like, I reckon.
He smashed it even
And
back
with his
in the day.
old style, well, that's what I was going to say. His old tag, I don't know if he'll obviously not want me saying it, but that as well. I'm just trying to think. You know what? What's mad, right? With us living over in Gateshead, over that way, you don't see it over this way because obviously we're in Whitley Bay, fucking down the coast in the northeast at the minute. But you know who fucking every cable box and every street sign? Who?
Gat.
No.
Who?
Cone
Who?
RS. See, he doesn't really do many pieces and stuff, and he just does sort of little ropes and that, but he's got fucking tags everywhere. Like, just every single street in Gateshead has got something by Cone on it where I've walked through, man. It's mad.
So, now what I've been thinking, just because you've mentioned that there, I think there's been a shift, me, in terms of, like, when we were growing up, it was our end of Newcastle that was probably the peak of where all the writers were from and bombed.
Yeah.
But I think it's shifted a bit now. There's more probably being done in Gateshead streets than there is on, like, Watergate and Town. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. You could be right, mate.
So
I thought these were quick fire.
Well, there will be when I edit it. Which writer are you glad that you most had the privilege to paint with?
I'm not sure, you know, because I still paint with people right up until this day. I've painted with a lot of, you know, various different people, but I think just to say that I've done it with him, Keza, you know.
Yeah.
Because between Keza and his old tag that he used to write before that, like, even people who didn't like him as a person have said he's like, he, in their eyes, is like the best writer Newcastle's ever produced. But just to say that I've done stuff with him or whatever, you know.
When me and you go to raves and the shout outs on the set, why is it always chuff and tough and not tough and chuff?
I think it's funny. Because I get them in my own name, you know what I mean. I get them for myself. Next.
Any regret? Final question. Any regrets?
Millions.
Would you have done anything differently?
No, it's happened. You know, like, it's easy to say because once you regret one thing, you're gonna regret loads of stuff. But it just. All the bickering with people, like, what goes on could have easily been stopped. Like,
you're still fucking doing it now, you daft cunt.
That's what I'm saying it for.
Stop it then. Are we hearing now saying on the podcast that TUF is going to end the beef?
Well, people are always just going to pick away at you, but I bite my tongue a lot more now than I fucking used to.
I have noticed that, like. Mm-hmm. I hope it progresses.
I hope it continues.
Anything else you want to add to finish off?
Just that I love you and it's been a privilege to come here. It's been one of the best days of my life. It's changed my outlook.
Right then,
everyone. Just that's it. I'm not going to give anyone any shout outs or anything because there is actually always someone who I'll forget that I wish I should have or whatever. Just everyone who's alright with us is alright with us, and everyone who isn't. You know, like, it's just how it is. But hurry up and get the next person on, so it doesn't seem like self-indulgent, just because I'm your mate anyway, that I've come and done a podcast with you, because it's not like that at all. I got asked to come here.
Now we've bagged the first one with yourself. Hopefully we've got a few big names in the pipeline.
Yep.
Hopefully get one done once a month. But stay tuned.
Sound. You should do one with yourself. Asking yourself questions and then answering them.
I wouldn't do it.
Put your MC voice on, answer them.
The only way I would do one for me is if we did an RFH one and I did it with Cho and Keta and someone else interviewed it.
Aye, that would be good, that.
But they don't want to do it.
I can't see them doing that.
They don't want to do it.
I think you could probably get Cho to do it if he'd had a drink or whatever.
Nah,
or like,
he's flat out said he doesn't want to do it. I've blagged. He said, up to
get
him.
away from his bird. But it's Keta who I think you couldn't do it, because like as he's got older, he's turned into like a quiet, mellow bloke, and he's just off the scene, isn't he?
Aye, totally. Right then, are we done?
Aye, can I go now, please?
3, 2, 1. Tough and Chuff are gone.
Hi.
Get up your house.